All right, let's settle a debate once and for all. We're diving deep into the world of mint to figure out the real difference between spearmint and peppermint. You know that moment when you're standing in the grocery store, staring at two bunches of green leaves, wondering which one to grab? Well, wonder no more. Let's get into it.
So be honest, have you ever done this? You're making a beautiful cocktail, maybe a fresh salad, you grab some mint, and the whole thing ends up tasting, well, a little bit like mouthwash. It's a super common mistake, but it has a massive impact on your final dish.
And hey, this isn't just a theory. Here's a real story from one of our sources. A simple swap from spearmint to peppermint took a party drink and turned it into something he described as medicinal. Yikes. This is exactly why it pays to know which mint is which.
To really get what's going on with the taste, we have to go back to the beginning. You might think mint is mint, right? Well, not exactly. They're in the same family, sure, but they're not twins. They've got different origins, different looks, and, as you're about to see, totally different personalities.
Okay, this chart breaks it all down beautifully. First off, peppermint isn't even its own original plant. It's a hybrid, a mix of watermint and, yep, spearmint. That's why it's got those darker leaves and reddish stems. Spearmint, on the other hand, is a natural species with those bright green, spear-shaped leaves, and I absolutely love these nicknames. Peppermint is the fiery sibling, and spearmint is the calmer character. Trust me, you're going to want to remember those.
So, why is one so fiery and the other so calm? What's the big secret? It all comes down to one single powerful compound and their chemical makeup. This, right here, is the key that unlocks the whole mystery. And that compound is menthol. You know that intense, icy-cool feeling you get from a really strong mint? That's all menthol. It's the main character in our story, and the amount of it in each plant changes literally everything. And here it is, the big reveal. Just look at this chart. Peppermint is packed with up to 40% menthol. 40%! Meanwhile, spearmint has 0.5%. That's not a typo. We're talking 40 versus 0.5. It's a massive, colossal difference, and it explains everything about how they taste, smell, and what we use them for. So with that insane 40% menthol content, let's talk about our fiery sibling. That huge dose of menthol makes peppermint a true powerhouse of cooling flavor. It doesn't mess around. That bold, sharp flavor is exactly what you want when you need a serious minty kick. Think about candy canes, peppermint bark, or that perfect blast of cold in mint chocolate chip ice cream. It's strong enough to stand up to rich flavors like chocolate, and it's what makes peppermint tea feel so invigorating. All right, now let's flip the script and meet the calmer character. With its teeny tiny amount of menthol, spearmint plays a completely different role. It's not about power, it's all about subtlety and sweetness. Spearmint's light, sweet flavor is the reason it's the hero in savory dishes and cocktails. It adds this beautiful layer of freshness without bulldozing everything else on the plate. This is why it's perfect in tabbouleh, why it's a classic with lamb, and, you guessed it, why it's the only mint you should be using for that perfect mojito. Okay, so we've got their flavor profiles down, but the story doesn't end in the kitchen. Those same chemical differences that make them so distinct in our food also give them some pretty unique roles when it comes to our health. So just to wrap up the cooking side of things, think of this as your official cheat sheet. For cocktails and savory dishes where you want that subtle sweetness, go for spearmint. For desserts and teas where you need a flavor that can shout over the other ingredients, peppermint is your guy. Now, let's talk about the medicine cabinet. And no surprise, their health benefits are just as different. That high menthol peppermint is a rock star for physical stuff. It's amazing for digestion, headaches, and muscle pain. Spearmint, on the other hand, is known more for its calming effects on the mind and body, helping with stress, hormonal balance, and even memory. They're like two different tools in your wellness toolkit. And here's a cool bit of science for you. That menthol and peppermint isn't just a flavor. It's actually working on a physical level. It literally helps relax the muscles in your gut. That's the real reason it's so good for things like bloating or IBS. It's a perfect example of how plant chemistry directly affects our bodies. Now, check this out. It's not just about relaxation. One study found that just a single dose of peppermint oil led to a 36.1% increase in grip strength. Pretty wild, right? It just hints at how peppermint has these invigorating effects we're still learning about. Okay, so we know they're different.
We know what they're good for, but what happens when you're in the middle of a recipe and you realize you only have one kind? Let's get practical.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can you just swap them? Well, the answer is sometimes. But you can't just do a one-for-one switch and hope for the best. You've got to be a little strategic about it. So, if you absolutely have to substitute, here are the 3 golden rules. 1. Adjust for intensity. Peppermint is way stronger, so if you're using it instead of spearmint, use about half as much. 2. Balance the sweetness. Spearmint is naturally sweeter, so you might need to adjust the sugar in your recipe. And 3, no matter which mint you're using, throw it in at the very end of cooking. The heat will kill that fresh flavor fast. But, and this is a big one, there are some times when you should just not. In dishes where the specific character of that mint is the whole point, like a classic mint julep or traditional Moroccan tea, using the wrong one will just ruin it. For those, it's worth it to stick to the recipe or make a trip to the store. And that really says it all, doesn't it? Knowing the difference isn't just about avoiding a culinary disaster. It's about having the power to take a dish from just okay to something truly special. The right mint can absolutely transform your cooking.
So there you have it. You're now in on the secret of the great menthol divide. You know the power of peppermint and the sweet charm of spearmint. The only question left is, what amazing thing are you going to go create? Thanks so much for joining me.